In today's edition of The Huddle, I have the great pleasure of talking with Tamie Matthews. She's the founder and owner of RevenYou, a team of revenue and sales and marketing specialists that work with owner-operators of accommodation businesses. They very much enjoy making more profits for hoteliers and solving the most complex puzzles. And she may or may not share a few of her puzzle-solving tricks. We'll have to see. Hi, Tamie. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm really curious, especially, following your, I'll use the word illustrious career, right? Having been a reservations manager in Europe, a revenue manager all over Europe, a multi-property cluster revenue manager, having worked in revenue management and marketing hotels for as long as you have. When it comes to searching, finding, and booking accommodation for your own holiday, how do you go about it?
My secret when I'm traveling for pleasure is that I have a travel agent.
They're not, gone with the last millennium. They're still a thing. Travel agents are still important.
I love my travel agent. She's amazing. She's booked all my holidays for since we came out of COVID, actually from before COVID. When I'm booking a leisure trip, the first thing it's who am I traveling with?
Yeah, right.
So I have friends all around the world, probably like you. I've got friends dotted around the world. And so it's which of my friends am I meeting where, and then whether my child's coming with me, and then where do we want to go? And then I spend a bit of time on Google, on AI. Where do I want to go? What sort of things do I want to do? Dates, all that sort of thing. Do I want to go to Borneo? No, it's the wrong weather. Do I want to go to Vietnam? Yes, it's the right weather, the right time of year, those sort of things. Then I go call up my travel agent and go, I want to go here. And these are the dates.
So you're doing a lot of their legwork and pre-research, and
Yes.
then you hand over like the heavy lifting in the booking part to a travel agent. That's interesting.
I can give it all to my travel agent and then sit back. I'm that time poor, busy person. And then the other thing I really, really like about it is the time I get on the plane, everything is paid for except my spending money. So depending on how far in advance I start planning, I can pay it off in installments. I can pay it off in one lump sum. It's all paid before I get on the plane, so I'm not coming home to a massive credit card bill. When I travel for work, though, my travel agent doesn't do work because work's simple. Then I just book a hotel, and quite often it's either one of my clients, or if there's no client, I'll start with booking.com and I research and then I shortlist. Then I go to the direct website and check it out because I want to book direct. But it's amazing how many times I'm traveling for work, I can't book direct.
Yeah.
And it's things like when you go to someone's direct website, it's not always the price that's different. It's the terms and conditions.
The terms and conditions. It's the trust factor. They might have videos. They might have more up-to-date info. Well, depends on how good they are at managing their own website, right? I think what I'm hearing from you is a lot about favorite and comfort and what you're used to, but also trust.
Yeah.
Trust, trust, trust. You trust this travel agent you've been working with for a long time. You trust what you might see on certain channels versus the other because it's consistent and it tells you the truth.
Mm.
So whether it's the channel that always tells you the truth or the travel agent that always tells you the truth, it's about feeling like you're getting the truth and consistency, right?
But the things I find that annoy me, and I work in this industry, so I really notice it, is things like, well, if you book on booking.com, it's a 24-hour cancellation policy. Now, I've booked a flight. I'm not likely to not go, but things happen. And then you go to direct and it might be a 7 days or a non-refundable cancellation. And the one, like I have a work Amex card and the amount of places that won't accept it, but booking.com will.
Consistency again, right? Yeah.
Well, that's easy. I mean, one of the worst ones I ever had, I was traveling the south coast of New South Wales. I was with a friend and my child. I found a 2-bedroom apartment. I could book that on booking.com with the child in the apartment. But if I went to their direct website, I couldn't book a child.
That's really interesting. So I'm curious now, if that property was your client, how would you advise them to to not do that or to make that better? Or would you advise them to change it or not? If they were your client, what would you do?
My advice to clients is always that what you have for direct should be better than what you have on booking.com.
I think we call that content parity.
Yes. So your content, your terms and conditions, everything, and I'm not talking about the price here,
Policy parity.
but what you have for direct should be better.
Better or easy or, just nicer.
Yes. So if you're going to put 48 hours on booking.com, maybe it's 24 hours cancellation for direct, or maybe it's you accept these cards and not those, whatever it is, make something a bit better for direct. It is amazing how much more difficult a lot of clients make it to book direct.
I know you work with a lot of hotel owners and owner operators. Is there, what's the most ridiculous thing that an owner operator or client has ever expected your magic, your revenue management magic, to fix overnight?
One this year was when a client called one of my staff. There was a state declared national emergency cyclone heading our way, and the government had declared stay-at-home orders. So the hotel was getting cancellations.
That's what happens.
The owner asked us how we were going to fill their hotel.
Okay. So that's an interesting challenge.
It was.
And so when you stopped the weather, by the way, let us know how you did that. How did that conversation go if you weren't able to stop the cyclone?
I did say to the staff members, maybe go back with some sort of advice around, well, it's an emergency. It's an emergency situation. And quite often we can get things like CFA, police, fire, ambulance, all those people get moved, or even electrical workers, road workers.
That's right. People need accommodation, and it's not always for pleasure or joyful reasons, right?
But also it's like when I'm training people and talking to people, is the biggest thing to understand is you can't call me on Good Friday and ask me how I'm going to fill Easter. Like these sort of things, like with an emergency situation, we can't do anything about it once it's been declared. We just have to hope. We can't fill Easter on Good Friday. These things take planning and preparation and thought and strategic planning to make sure you've got everything in place.
I'm curious, especially since you do have a child and considering what you do for a living. This is going to sound like a wonky question, but I'm going to ask anyway. If you had to explain hotel revenue management to a 5-year-old using only candy, little lollies as props, how would you do it?
Pretend you have 10 M&Ms, 20 M&Ms.
Okay. I'm already happy. Yeah, keep going.
M&Ms are lovely. So you've got 20 M&Ms, you line them up on a desk and you open a stall. There's 100 people in the room, and say that, let's just pretend the first person comes up to the stall and says, I'll have a pink M&M and I'll give you $10 for it. So you sell your M&M. So you're down to 19. And the next couple of people.
My perishable inventory is going.
Perishable inventory, yes. So the next couple of people come up and they pay like $10 and you're like, right, so I've made $30. I've sold 3 M&Ms. But then you start thinking and you're like, hang on, there was 100 people in the room and I only have 17 M&Ms left.
Oh, do you have excess demand, Tamie?
Yes. So I'm going to put the price up. So I'm like, oh, hang on. You're paying $15 now.
Yep.
So it's like there's excess demand. I'm going to put my price up to $15. And there's still demand. I sell the next 5. I'm down to 10 M&Ms. Sold them at $15. So then it's like, hang on, there's still a lot of people wanting M&Ms. So I'm going to go to $20. And I'm going to sell the next 5 M&Ms at $20. And I'm down to only a few little M&Ms left. But there's still a lot of hungry people in the room. So now I'm going to create a special offer and I'm going to sell the last M&Ms at $30.
Nice. I like it. I like it.
Yes. So it's just making sure that pricing increases as you realize there's still demand.
Just described then is an ascending pricing model. And what you did not do, because you're trained in revenue management, is what you and I probably see some hotel managers do all the time, which is, "Oh, I only got 3 M&Ms left. Oh my gosh, I gotta get rid of them. Gotta get rid of them." And they don't look to see how many people are waiting in the line, so they just go, "Every all the M&Ms are only 50 cents. I have to quick hurry up and sell them." No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, I was talking to the client about this the other day, and they've got a revenue manager that is like getting to the end of the day and dropping their pricing to a point where they are getting undesirables and they're now getting negative reviews.
Buying into the wrong segment, we call that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, right? Sometimes you might need to. Certain hotels, certain profit margin models, you know, depending on what kind of debt you might be servicing as an owner, or depending on where the property is, or if you had a lot of displacement and you want to recover some cost of acquisition costs. There's some reasons why you might have to, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy into the wrong segment. There's different ways to go about that, right?
And sometimes I think we focus too much on 100%. Like
Yes.
100% is a nice number. It's a nice round number, but we focus too much on that. And it's like, it's
Yes.
actually okay to sit at 80, 85%, 90%. It's okay to have a couple of rooms empty.
And sometimes you can be more profitable.
Yes.
Sometimes you can be more profitable with 1 or 2 empty.
Yeah.
Not always, but
But do we train our staff on that? Like, I never understood this concept when I worked in hotels. It wasn't till I started working with owners of hotels that it really shifted my personal understanding of profit. Because when I worked in hotels, it was all about delivering occupancy, ADR, RevPAR. That's everything I had to deliver. Occupancy, occupancy, occupancy. Then I
yes.
suddenly started working with owners, and owners were having these conversations with me about, staffing costs, profit levels,
GOPPAR, net GOPPAR, profit and loss statements. Yes.
and it
Yes.
changed my perspective on what I was aiming towards. And
Yes.
working with those owners has really moved me to the concept of actually 80% is okay.
Yes.
80% is where we want to be. And when we get to 80%, we need to be increasing the amount of money we're making, not the number of rooms we're selling. I look back at those jobs I had when I was so much younger and I was still learning, and I wish I had the confidence and the knowledge now to argue back. Um, One of my jobs in the UK, I worked with the same GM at 2 hotels. I still talk to him on LinkedIn, actually. And
Yes,
he
yes.
was this little bulldog of a man, and he was the most amazing GM. I learned so much from him. And I
Yes.
remember him getting a phone call from the owners one day. We'd opened this new property in Nottingham. We'd opened this new property, and I was just beginning to really understand distribution costs. It was a
Yes.
new
Yes.
concept. And over in the UK, we had a company called Super Breaks, and it was very leisure ITO. It charged 33% commission, and it was
Wowzers.
and it was at a time where Booking.com was big, Last Minute was getting like OTAs were starting. But I'd worked out they were 15% commission. And I don't know how, like, I just worked this out without any sort of specific teaching. And so in opening this hotel, I hadn't bothered to contract super breaks. And the poor GM got this phone call from the owner. "Rrr." And so then I get this, "Tammy, come into my office now." And I go like wandering and thinking, what have I done? And he's like, "Why haven't you contracted super breaks?" And I'm like, "But they're 33% commission. And I'm filling the hotel from Booking.com and lastminute.com back then. 15% commission." And he
How
goes,
you like me now?
and he just looks at me and goes, "Right, get out of my office." I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, see ya."
I love that. I love that.
But it was just having this knowledge we have now and this confidence now
Yeah.
that, because it's amazing. Like, we all grew up and we learned how to argue our case. We learned how to fight back with data and
Yes.
numbers, but we had to learn that somehow.
Yeah, even though there's so many different types of knowledge and tricks and technology and things I wish I had when I was a reservations manager and then a revenue manager and, even managing distribution centers. And yet I wouldn't change a thing because, you know, I wouldn't change a thing. Speaking of things you might change, though, again, not with a magic wand, but while we're on the topic of, booking channels and, how they sort of play and how they cost, what would you ask the actual OTA algorithm developers if you could feed them a truth serum first and then ask them questions? What would you ask them?
With the algorithms, I'd really want to know how the algorithm is built, like what percentage of the 100% is photos, what percentage is reviews, what
Yes.
percentage is conversion, what percentage is. Because I totally get they're a business. So they only want to promote the businesses that are performing for them.
And they're in it to make a profit too. And they fill hotels. They're very good at what they do.
Yes. But I want to really get into how the algorithms are made, and how they're built and how often they change. Because one of the things we notice, like we deal with over 100 different hotels.
Yeah.
And we've
Wow.
had
Wow.
arguments internally. It's really funny when someone goes, "But I got that email and it said click here to opt out." And then someone else will be on the meeting going, "But I got that email and it said opt here to opt in." So we know
Yes.
they're A/B testing all the time. We know they're doing things all the time. It's like, could you just be honest with us and tell us? Because we
Yeah.
could play the game better if we knew what the game was.
Yeah, if you know what the rules are. If you're playing Monopoly and you read the rules on the inside of the box, um, you know, some people don't think that's as fun. I quite like reading the rules on the inside of the box to play a Monopoly game.
I mean, if we're going to play this Monopoly game, I would really love to know. You know, when you go to your Google business profile and there's
Yes.
Booking.com, there's Expedia, there's Direct. And then as it goes down the list, there's like these random weird OTAs that you've never heard of. And
Yes.
suddenly you see all these names and you're like, who are they? I would really love to ask, while they're under the truth serum,
Yes.
are they white labeled Expedias and Booking.com?
Yeah, you wonder, right? Or affiliates or yeah. Yeah.
I think they're white labels. It's my own personal question.
Mm.
I really think they're white labels and they're testing. They're A/B testing.
You just made me think of something. We mentioned Monopoly just then and playing Monopoly board games. You know that big go to jail card? The big, I forget which corner it is on the Monopoly board, but there's the go to jail card or that spot on the Monopoly board. If we were making like a hotel, this is a good idea. If there was a hotel distribution or hotel industry board game, Monopoly style, what do you think would be the go to jail equivalent for players?
For me, it's my staff. They are my most important thing. And for me, I have zero tolerance for disrespect. I will sit there and argue and
You mean
debate.
from clients with
Yeah.
your staff? Yeah, I see. I see what you mean.
And that for me is really important. Like I will debate the pros and cons of a strategy, of a price, 100 versus 110. We want this market segment, we want that market segment. I don't mind. I will respect that you have a different opinion to me. Respect. Anyone disrespecting my team, they go to
Yes.
jail. So that's my hard and fast rule.
Yeah, and thinking about it, there's only 2 times in my working life, working on-site in hotels, when I asked a guest in the hotel to leave, and they were no longer permitted. They were no longer welcome to be our guest in that hotel anymore. The one I won't share that story because it wouldn't be appropriate for a public conversation. But the second one was because this person, and I won't say his name, but I distinctly remember this guest's name. I remember his face, and I remember exactly what he said and how he treated my front desk clerk. And he was just so awful and disrespectful to our front desk agent. He was asked to leave, and I explained to him exactly why he was being asked to leave, and we gave him a full refund. But yeah, again, staff respect, and he was worth, over the lifespan of his account, he was a guest that stayed a few times a year, and he was just not welcome. You can take your 20,000 in revenue per year and you can go because you're not worth it. So twice in my working life, I've said no to a client, a guest in that case. And yeah, for the same reason. So I agree with you. It's just not okay.
When you think like in your situation, that person standing on the reception desk is getting paid minimum wage.
Yep.
They're here, and let's be honest, a lot of them are studying at university, they're doing
Yes.
other jobs, and they're
Yes.
here to earn money. They're there for the money. But and they're doing really amazing jobs because a
Yes.
receptionist has to know so much. They are not paid enough to deal with someone who's probably had a few too many drinks and
I think we as an industry, hospitality, hotel industry, I think we're getting better at making hotels and hospitality a career spot rather than just a place where people go to earn a tiny bit of money while they're studying what they actually want to do for a living. Or, this is just what I'm doing temporarily while I work toward my actual career. So I think we're getting better at making hospitality an actual career spot where you can aspire to something different and aspire towards something really interesting that does pay well and have, lateral moves and get moved up. Certainly within hotels, you can be promoted to supervisor and then maybe reservations and front office or go into procurement. There's lots of different places within a hotel, but then there's other places within the industry too now, right? With distribution and even being a revenue and marketing managers and some of the things that your staff do for for hotels. So I think we're getting better at that. And I think the industry is just better now. But I'll ask you the question this way. If and when you're speaking to one of those hotel school students, like you just mentioned, and they ask you, gosh, Tammy, if I want to aspire to a hotel career like you've had, so that someday I can afford a 2-week holiday in Fiji and Samoa like you've just had, what advice would you give a hotel student who's just starting out in the industry so that they can aspire to be able to love what they do like you do and have a 2-week holiday in Fiji and Samoa like you just did? What advice would you give?
when I've had many people ask me this because when I'm interviewing for people to come and work for me, I talk to them and I'm always happy to give them feedback as to why they might not get the job or what I think they should do before they reapply. One
Yes.
of the things I always say to people is go and work for a big chain. First off, work for a big chain. You will get all of the training in the world. You think when you work for a big chain, they have all those training courses and they have pathways for you to progress through.
Yes, right.
So work for the big chain. It doesn't matter if it's Hilton, Marriott, whatever. Pick one and work for one for a while, but don't stay there. Do not stay there because if you do, you will be funneled into a silo where you only know what you do and you don't know what the person in the next office does. You don't know what does accounting do, what does F&B do, what was like you don't know the other roles.
Well, it's part of why big chains and global brands are successful, right? Because they're somewhat cookie cutter. It's why franchise models are successful is because there's roles and there's responsibilities and there's a framework and there's a silo and that makes them very successful. But and it's good to learn in that environment, for a while, whether that's a year or 10 years, but maybe not for life.
No.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Don't stay there for life because
Yeah.
all your creativity will be lost.
Yes.
Get out before you start hating it and move into an independent. And the independent, make sure it's a smaller independent because once you get into the independence, there is no rules.
So I'm interested, what is your definition of small? Do you mean small like 10-room B&B or small like 100 rooms regional property with no restaurant?
Under 100 rooms, where
Okay.
there's enough size that you can get involved in different things
Yeah,
and
and get
be
messy, get dirty a bit. Yeah.
but be creative
Yeah.
because the best people I've worked with are the ones that know how to bend the rules and play with the rules and try different things and they think laterally and they think creatively and they will look at a problem and go, let's do this. Because
Yes.
in that problem solving is where you will challenge everything you learnt in a chain. It's where you will really start to grow and develop and become the incredibly dynamic person you can become. You might choose to go back into a chain after that, but spend some time in an independent. I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times I've interviewed someone from a chain and I've asked them, what are the top 10 producing channels in Australia? And they won't know because if you work for Accor, that's done in Paris, or if you work for Marriott, distribution's done somewhere else, and they've never got involved in that. Or you ask them what's their GDS production like, and they don't know what GDS is. They don't
Yeah, right.
know these little things. So until they get into an independent where they get to learn and they get involved in different things. And then the other one I always say is work in different departments because
Yes.
I mean, I've never done housekeeping.
I did an 8-week rotation in housekeeping, and the year was, well, I'm not going to say what year it was, but it was the hardest 8 weeks working in my life, but probably the most educational,
Yes.
right? Like, and I was working in a hotel where in that particular state, this was in the US a long time ago, we had to flip mattresses every clean. Cray cray. I'm sure they don't do that anymore. 8 weeks rotation in housekeeping. And not only did I learn a lot about, the 24-hour clock, how you look around the room and every single aspect of the room and about, different chemicals for different surfaces and all that, which I still use in my own house to this day. But you learn, even as a hotel revenue manager or hotel reservations manager, and you appreciate a lot more about turning over rooms and double renting rooms and, about how guests that you're booking from certain segments treat hotel rooms in a certain way.
Yeah.
And, I learned things in those 8 weeks working in housekeeping that informed almost everything I've done ever since. So, yeah, different departments. That's such a good point.
It's so important. Like I've always looked at the housekeeping manager is always the person I make my best friend. Because if I don't make them my best friend, life's gonna be hell. Um, but you want to be able to talk to and understand what you're doing and how it affects every other department, whether
Yes.
it's maintenance had planned to paint those rooms and now suddenly you've sold them, or the chef has got half his team on holiday and you've booked a function for 1,000 people. Like all of these things, how it interacts, you've got to understand because if you've only ever sat in like in the sales office, you're not going to know.
No, you don't know. And, you know, conversely, the 8 weeks I worked in housekeeping, one shift in food and beverage, which was in functions. I won't go into the story now, but there was a very good reason why it was my first, last, and only shift in that department of a hotel. It involved me destroying a Vera Wang wedding dress with a carafe of Merlot. Never mind, that was educational in its own way. But I wasn't sacked. I was put in the back office, and the GM said, just go behind the front desk and answer the phone and take reservations. Just, no, you're not fired, Shannon. Just don't go near any liquids or sharp objects. Go behind the front desk and answer the phone. And then I stayed in reservations for 10 years.
I was food and beverage for a long time, and then I got the opportunity. I was working in a fine dining restaurant in Melbourne years ago, and my manager there was like, "Tamie, what are you going to do with your life?" Like, I was working with guys in this fine dining restaurant, and they were absolutely lovely, but they would sit there and they would talk after work about, well, when I used to work at Elton's country house, Princess Anne used to come and visit, and
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there and my little mind's going, "Pop," all these,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
names they would talk
Yes.
about. But
Yes.
my manager, Jack, at the time, he was like, "What are you gonna do with your life? Like, you can't just stay in food and beverage."
Jack was
And he
wise.
he was. He actually helped me transition into the front office, and
Nice.
from there, I never looked back, and it was
Yeah.
reception, then reservations, then revenue.
If you stayed in it for that long, you must have been much more graceful and a lot less clumsy than me. It sounds like you probably didn't drop things as much as I did or break stuff like I did,
Um
because you wouldn't have been able to stay in it that long if you were as clumsy as I am.
I was one of the only girls that worked in this fine dining restaurant. Again, very male dominated. So that hotel group made all the sales managers redundant and then pulled all of us revenue managers into a training day and went, I know you revenue managers, but you have to now do sales.
Yeah.
And we all sat there going, what? We have to cold call? But they gave us 1-2 days training. I hated it, but I learnt
Yeah.
sales. And
Yes.
I then had to go and do sales. And I look back at that now and I go, I now have my own business. I now have a business where I've been going for years.
Because you're effectively selling all the time, even if you're
Yeah.
not, cold calling. Here's a controversial question, and I keep saying it's the last question I'm going to ask you, and then it isn't. Do you think it's easier to train a sales manager to be a revenue manager, or is it easier to train a revenue manager to be a sales manager?
Oh my God, that's a oh.
And you can say the correct answer is it depends on the individual. It
Yeah.
depends on their business acumen. It depends on what they want to do. It depends on a whole lot of things. And yet, I'm going to ask the question anyway. Easier to train a revenue brain to be a sales manager or a sales brain to be a revenue guru?
I would go with revenue to sales because I
Mhm.
think personally, a lot of revenue managers are very good at listening and analyzing. So if
Yes,
you put yes, you're going to struggle to get a revenue manager to make a cold call.
sure.
But once they get on a call with someone and they're having a conversation, generally one on one, and they're talking to someone, they are going to listen, and the best
Yes,
salespeople listen.
interesting. That's so interesting. I mean, I've been both. I was temporarily a sales manager for a little while, a long time ago, and I was spectacularly bad at it. I could listen and all, and I was good at the selling part. But then when it came to the important parts, like the negotiating, which let's face it, is a very specialized skill. And that takes a very savvy, specialized kind of brain and skill set and, savoir faire that I just didn't have. So I could do the selling part and the describing part and the demand generation part, but the actual parts, like the selling and the converting and the hard sell, I don't think I could ever learn that. I don't think so.
The one I struggled with was, when you had to go back the second year to recontract them. And the first year they said, oh, we're going to produce 100 rooms and we're going to do this, this, and this. And so us being revenue managers, we went back and checked our notes, analysed
Yeah.
it. And then they're going, well, we want a discount on last year's rate because we produced all these room notes. And you go, no,
No.
no, you didn't. Your rates go
Yeah.
up. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah. Okay. Last question I'm going to ask you. What is your superpower, Tammy Matthews?
one that came back from two of my staff was like, we are internally fascinated. We sit on a meeting with you with a client and you listen to the client. They will babble away for like half an hour. You will be able to cut through what they're trying to talk about, understand what they're trying to talk about, repeat it back to them in small words. And then they said, then the client hangs up the call. And within 2 seconds, you're going, right, here's the plan. We're going to do this, 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 and this, and you're going to do this, and so will do this, and here's the plan.
And do you think that's something you were kind of born with, or is that something you've learned? Is that something you have worked on, or is that something you're pre-configured with at birth?
I think I was pre-configured with a good executive functioning. I now look at my career as a consultant and understand why I was a terrible employee because I question everything. Don't accept the status quo. And I realized why I wasn't a very good employee.
Mm, I doubt that's
But
true, but I'll let you get away with it. Yeah.
no, I was never very good. I never accepted what I was taught. But I often can work out the plan and work out 10 steps ahead,
I
like
love
what
that.
needs to happen.
I love that.
Um, and I have a brain where I can map it out in my brain.
I love that.
Like Building
love that.
systems. I love building systems. That's the one I still like dabbling in, even though I'm the boss now. I still like to play around and build a system. Why? What do you think is my superpower, Shannon?
I think your superpower is being able to speak to many different levels of expertise, levels of experience, levels of engagement, and customize your conversation to who you're talking with. Like if I and I have done this because you and I have, worked together. I've referred some of my clients to you, and I've, referred you for all different types of things with different types of industry folks. And I've done that because I know for sure that I can put Tamie in front of, a chief technical officer of a tech company, and equally in front of a front desk clerk at a regional property in the middle of New Zealand, or I can connect Tamie with an owner operator of, a property that's thinking about buying another hotel in Western Australia, and they're looking for like three completely different types of characters in our industry at different levels of expertise and experience and requirements. And it's like, yep, Tamie can talk to that person. Whereas I think, some people are very good at speaking only at CEOs, and some people are good at speaking only at entry level reservations agents or housekeepers in hotels and speaking to them about procurement and hotels and some of that. But your superpower is that you can speak to all levels of different people in the industry, and they're all going to walk away with something interesting from Tamie. And that's a pretty magic superpower, if you ask me.
Thank you. But I remember sitting in this meeting for 2 hours, and we talked about RGIs and RevPARs and GOPPARs and or like put any jargon you want in this meeting. We pulled up STR reports and revenue reports and all these different reports, like
Yeah,
whatever the hell.
that's the good
And
stuff. Yeah.
all the good stuff, yes. And we walked out of that meeting, and the chef sidled up to me and he goes, Tamie, what's ADR?
Mm. Good on him for asking, or her. Good on him or her for asking the question.
But it taught me I am responsible for making sure that whoever I'm talking to understands what I'm talking about, because I sat there for 2 hours not understanding that one of the people in that room had no clue what I was talking about. It really made me really understand that what I'm doing has a big impact on others. And I walked away from that thinking, like, now when I do training, now when I'm talking to people, I can fall back on using terms and jargon and all that, but I actually consciously stop myself and go, no, I need to make sure that the person I'm talking to understands. So, what's your background? Have you worked in hotels before? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And if they say something like, oh, well, I'm a farmer and I own this business and that business and blah, 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 and you're like, okay, yeah, I need to. They're very astute business people, but they don't know hotels, or they know hotels and they
Yeah.
confuse. So
I mean, let's face it, that's a good example, because I always think, if anyone understands distribution better than hotel people, it's a farmer. Farmers understand distribution, and we can learn a lot from them about how to distribute perishable inventory. I think we can learn a lot from farmers. Anyway, thank you so much, Tamie. I've taken up way too much of your time. I know your clients are probably piling up on your emails and your phone calls. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed my chat with you, as I always do.
thanks, Shannon. Lovely to be here.
Until next time, may your TrevPAR be high and your guest complaints be low.
I like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamie.
Bye.